Well, if you've watched any of my videos at all, you probably see that I love water holes and I love mock scrapes. They both, of course, have different features that are attractive to bucks and deer in general, but water holes and mock scrapes in the right locations can be incredible tools that you can use on your property. But there's a point at which you can have way too many water holes and you can have way too many mock scrapes. Water holes I love because they define deer movement. They define daily deer movement. When deer are bedded dry and there's no water on the way to their food, then adding a water hole in that location, even if water is 300 yards behind that bedding area or 200 yards, and in this case 300 yards down and there's a river system. But if they're bedded dry back on this knoll, the first thing you want to do on the way to food is hit this water hole and then go to the food source in the afternoon. Great spot for connecting with bucks during the rut too. Doesn't matter if it's pre-rut, post-rut, peak rut, doesn't really matter. Great spot. They'll hit that water hole. You know, a lot of times you can even tell when the rut's taking place because October 20th, October 18th, October 22nd, you'll see a lot of use up to that point in the afternoon by deer as they're heading to their afternoon food source a couple hours before dark. When the rut takes place though, that's when you start seeing those bucks cruising at 10 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 9, 3, whatever the time frame. But you can really tell when that rut's heating up because those bucks will be hitting that water hole and they want that water after they're cruising all night, all day, all morning, whatever it is. Mock scrapes, another definition of movement feature. I love using mock scrapes. It's a great place for a camera. Any of the bucks that are coming into this in October, September, even leading up to hunting season, let alone the rut, most of them will hit this mock scrape, and we have the water hole combination right here, and we also have a tree stand right here. Water holes, awesome, defined movement, very powerful. Deer are only here for 2-3 minutes and then they're headed on. High definition of movement. We like water holes that aren't going to run out, so we're looking at least a 100-gallon tank. This is a 110-gallon tank. But water holes, this is 50 acres of fairly dry land. It's a hill system, ridge system, and it goes up about 300 feet in elevation from front to back. Great spot for water hole because it's dry and we have dry bedding, sending deer to water to go to their afternoon food source. But on this particular property, we have actually 2 water holes. And so I think we could fit a third in somewhere maybe, but really the 2 water holes, we have one down here low, we have one up high. And on 40 acres, once you get to 4 or 5 water holes, you're diminishing the value of each water hole and the power that it has to attract deer and to find deer on a daily basis. So I like to look at, if you have 40 acres, you might have 3 to 4 locations, especially if you have extreme changes in elevation. 80 acres, that might equate to 4 or 5 at the most. When you get into 200 acres, it's not like you multiply that by 3 and you add 15 water holes or 12 or 10. 200 acres might be appropriate for 6, 5, 7, depending on the extreme amount of elevation change you have. The reason with elevation change is elevation change separates deer herds. We see a lot of mature bucks that only relate high or only relate low. There's certainly bucks that relate in between, but when you have an extreme elevation change, you'll separate buck herds, and we'll see that especially as bucks mature and age. Mock scrapes, I've seen literally, I'm not joking, I've seen 500 mock scrapes created with wood T-posts on 200 acres in northern Wisconsin, and not one was being hit. And it was the conditions, it was the type of scrapes they were making, there was chemicals in the rope they were using. They were using rope, which isn't a great, I like using vines, jack pine branches, oak branches. I like keeping things natural. You're never going to improve the situation by adding rope or something unnatural to mock scrape. But mock scrapes, think about it, same with water holes, you can have too many. Just because you have mock scrapes and 200 on your property or 100 doesn't mean you're going to attract more bucks. Again, it's just defining movement. I want these mock scrapes to be very powerful because I'm putting a camera on it right behind the video camera that we have. And so I want to take an inventory of bucks that are using this area. And so I have usually 5 to 6 cameras out here, and you can bet that they're all on mock scrapes or around a mock scrape or a water hole mock scrape combo. And so the general rule that I offer to my clients is you can create about 1 mock scrape per stand location. On this particular property, about 9 stand locations, and within some mostly shooting distance, we have a mock scrape, and we'll keep that going. We simply rake these out to clean up this mock scrape. I actually pee in the mock scrape to get it going, and we have deer that use them within days. They could care less about your human urine. That's the kind of old myth of old times. You can pee off your stand. I pee right into my mock scrapes, and the deer use them right away. But again, going back, 40 acres, 2 to 4 water holes, 80 acres, maybe 4, 5, 6. If the conditions are perfect, 200 acres, you might have 6, 7. But you don't want to offer more, even though these are great habitat improvements, because you're just diminishing and lowering the value of each one that you've placed in the woods. 1 mock scrape per stand location. Again, we have about 9 stand locations out here, and that's about right. And we can switch our cameras around, and I want to take inventory with these mock scrapes. But you can really oversaturate your habitat and your whitetail property with offering too many mock scrapes and water holes. They're a great feature, but think about that number when you're installing them on your land. And hey, instead of putting 500 water holes out on a property, or 500 mock scrapes, or whatever it might be, spend some time getting to know your property, where the deer are moving, maybe on your camera strategy, your food plot strategy, your bedding areas. There's a lot more you can be spending your time on than oversaturating your land with either mock scrapes or water holes.